Alright, today in class we learned about distributions of data, and we're going to do some very basic stuff before we get into some really interesting things about histograms, box and whisker plots, and scatter plots. So really all we're doing today is looking at the distribution and describing what's going on. So there are some measures of central tendency. They're called the average measures, and the most common that we're going to use are the mean, median, and mode. You guys have done these already before, but just as a quick review, the mean is the sum of the values divided by the total values in a set of data. So if I had 1, 2, 3, and 7, you would add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 7, and then divide that answer by 4 because we have 4 numbers. That would give you the mean. The median is the number in the middle, and I think I had 1, 2, 3, and 7, something close to like that. If you would go right to the middle. Here we only have 4 numbers, so we don't have a number right in the middle. So what we do instead is we take these two, add them. We take the mean of the 2 middle numbers, add them and divide by 2, which would give us 2.5. Or you can see it's right in the middle of those 2 numbers, so right in the middle would be 2.5. Mode is the number that occurs or appears the most, and if a set of data can have either no mode, one mode, or more than one mode. We have histograms, and I want you to see what they look like if they're skewed. This is positively skewed, and what happens here is that your median is that number in the middle, but your mean and your median do not line up. So this would be like your median, but this number here would be your mean, and when they are not lined up we get what's known as skewed data. So here would be what's known as a positively skewed data. This is negatively skewed data, so again you're looking probably somewhere in here would be your median. Your mean would be over here somewhere. If your mean and your median line right up, then we will say that your histogram is symmetric. So this is not just another example of what it could possibly look like. If you have, it'll be negatively skewed when your mean and your median don't line up. When your mean and median do line up, they call it a normal, but we will just say that it is symmetrical, so we'll say it's symmetric. And then if it's positively skewed, your mean will be over here while your median will be over here somewhere. Okay, we have the same idea with a box and a whisker plot. If your box and whisker plot looks like this, we say it's positively skewed. If it looks like this, it's negatively skewed, and you can see that these would also line up. This would line up like that for your histogram or a curve, where this one would line up like that, and it would still show that positive negatives. And then the last is symmetric if it lines up perfectly. The other thing I talked about is these are divided into quartiles. So we say between here and here 25% of the data will lie, as also between this first or that second bar and the third bar, that would be 25% of your data as well. And then again between these two we have 25%. And the last two, 25%. So they say it's divided into quartiles. We call this the lower quartile. This one's known as the upper quartile. This value will be your greatest value, and this will be your least value. This thing right in the middle is called the median. And we will go over these in great detail when we actually specifically study box and whisker plots. So we have scatter plots. Scatter plots, when we talk about this, we actually talk about correlation. Here we have a positive correlation. It has a positive slope. A negative correlation is when we have a negative slope. And this last one is probably the best picture I could find, but when there is no correlation between the data, we can't tell if it's positive or negative, we say there's no correlation. So on example 1, you're going to type all these values into your calculator, and I'm going to walk you through it. Hopefully you'll understand it. If not, come see me. The first thing you're going to do is press your Stat button. When you press your Stat button, it's going to ask you to edit, so you're going to choose one or just press Enter. And then you're going to enter this list in List 1. So in List 1, you'll press 6, then Enter, 13, Enter, and you'll list all those values and then press Enter. When you're finished with that, you're going to go second, y equals, which says a stat plot. Once you've chosen that stat plot, you're going to turn it on first, and you turn it on by pressing or highlighting the on and pressing Enter. Then you're going to choose, in this case we're looking to do a histogram, and you choose this by highlighting the histogram looking graph and press Enter, and then you're going to press Zoom 9 and it should graph your information for you, and I'll show you what the graph will look like when you have all those numbers entered. Okay, when you do get this graph, you'll get something that looks like this. Oh, that one's maybe not so high. And there'll be a blank here because there were no values, and that will be the end of your histogram. And these are broken up into equal intervals, and we will talk about those intervals and frequency when the next time we meet. Okay, example 2, you're doing the same idea. You're going to go store this as List 1, and you do that under Stat, and then Enter. And then once you have it stored, you're going to go into your second y equals again, which is called the stat plot. And we're going to change the graph to be a box and whisker. And there are 2 box and whiskers. We're going to pick the first one. It's going to show you outliers, and we'll talk about outliers again when we specifically talk about just box and whisker plots. And then you'll do Zoom 9 again, and that will graph it in a stat window. Okay, so when you do graph this and you get it stored in your calculator and you Zoom 9 in a stat window, you get a box and whisker that looks similar to this with a point out here. This point is this 95. It's so far away from our data that if we were to use it, it would definitely skew our data. So right now it's pretty symmetric. But if we were to change it in our viewing window so that it included our outlier, then this is what it would do to your box and whisker. And so this would then show you that it is positively skewed. Alright, example 3 then is asking you to compare 2 sets of values. We have x values and y values in a scatter plot. So you're actually going to have to go into Stat, press Enter, and then choose your x values to be List 1 and your y values to be List 2. After you have those stored, then you're going to go back to your second y equals, which is your stat plot window. And you'll choose, in this case, a scatter plot. And then make sure that it's choosing List 1 and List 2, and then you'll Zoom 9 again once you have them stored. Once you have them stored and you zoom, you get something like this. And this would show that there is a negative correlation. Oh, I ran out of room, sorry. And that's really what we're looking at today. We're looking at, can you describe the distribution of the data? Is it a negative correlation for scatter plots, positive or no correlation? For the box and whiskers and histograms, is it skewed negatively, positively, or is it symmetric? And so that's what you'll be trying to identify in your once you've entered the data into your calculator. So So hopefully that will help you with your 6-1 distribution of data. Good luck.